He sat alone at a small table in a quiet restaurant. Humanoid approached him. The term had long been adopted for the androids shaped like humans, now performing the bulk of daily labor. The young, thin man set the menu aside. Salmon steak. With potatoes, fried or boiled? The female android asked, smiling. I'll leave it up to you, the man muttered. A circular badge clipped to his blazer read, Leonty Jr. Consultant. Please clarify, the robot replied, with an even more pleasant smile. Fried. Leonty sighed and turned toward the window. Outside, the street lay blanketed in snow. An android garbage worker emptied bins, hurling bags into a compactor. Truck. A robot officer stood stiffly in the street, baton in hand. There were hardly any people-only machines. The rare pedestrian could be identified by their legs, which looked like legs, not metal stumps or wheels. 2 minutes later, the waitress android returned with his food. Lab-grown salmon and artificially cultivated potatoes fried in fat-free oil. He ate, got up, and stepped into the cold. Suddenly, just a few meters away, a police robot kicked a homeless man sprawled on the boulevard. The man staggered to his feet. But before he could take a step, the android struck him hard in the gut. The man collapsed, curled into himself. The robot hit him twice more with the baton, then swiftly lifted him under the arms and tossed him into a nearby police cruiser, a sleek, hovering vehicle that looked capable of soaring into the clouds. Leonty crossed the street and entered a shop labeled RobCorp. He wandered between rows of gleaming android models. With a heavy sigh, he reached into his pocket, pulled out a small blister pack, and chewed 2 pills. The drug was called No Worries, a psychoactive blend of unpronounceable compounds, distributed for free. Doctors assured the public it was perfectly safe for human use. Excuse me? A man in his 40s said, entering. Do you have the D200 model? Sold out, Leonty replied curtly. Damn. The man muttered, popping 3 No Worries pills into his mouth. I run a farm out west. I need a robot field hand. Demand's insane out there, asked the manager. Leonty said without interest. I've already submitted requests. The government's supposed to provide us with bots? I've got a whole damn truckload of pigs. How the hell am I supposed to manage them myself? I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do. And why not? The man's voice had softened. The pills were clearly kicking in, due to Amendment 34 of the Robotics Utilization Act. You are now required to present a warranty voucher. I don't have one. It expired a year ago. You should have replaced the unit a year ago then. This is the year before last, as you must know. Robots are no longer supplied by the government. The man chewed 2 more tablets. Nobody told me. Didn't hear anything out on the farm. Was it broadcast? No, but if you'd come in earlier, we'd have informed you. Now you need a voucher. Buy a robot, and you'll be eligible for a free replacement 2 months before its warranty expires. That's how those who follow the rules keep getting their androids. What's the damn point then? You're still giving out bots? Just give me anything, even an old one? Leonty walked past the shining new model security units. Clerksand headed toward the back display. A lone A450, one of the oldest models still functional. Turned back to the customer. I can offer you this one. Discounted. 2,325,000? The man frowned, his face twitching with frustration. At last he gave in. Fine. On credit, they moved to the registration counter. What's the loan term? 2 years? Initial payment? The farmer pressed his finger to the black panel. 1,200,000. Accepted, Leonty nodded. The man paid and walked out. Through the window, Leonty watched him drag a mangled robot from the back of his pickup truck and toss it onto the curb. A few shop workers packed up the requested model, wheeled it outside to the man, and took the old android off his hands, dumping it right in front of the garbage bots. The machines picked it up, activated their grinding motors, shredded the outdated robot into scrap, and loaded the remnants into the waste truck. Leonty climbed the narrow stairs to the 2nd floor of a modest building, walked to the door of his small apartment, and let himself in. The plasma screen was already playing the news after the February 22, 2081 law. Turning off the screen had been made illegal. He pulled out a packet of frozen food from his bag and placed it into the oven. 10 minutes later, it was ready: synthetic vegetables, faux chicken patties, reprocessed rice. He slumped onto the couch and popped open a can of purified beer. Henry Dorn, founder of RobCorp, has officially enacted the new law, tightening regulations against individuals without permanent housing, the news anchor shrieked. In case of any resistance, android police units are now authorized to use lethal force. An outdated domestic robot rolled into the room, model P6. One of the earliest generations still in use, its face looked human enough. It's hardly worse than newer models, and visually, there was little difference, but the functionality was far more. "Limited, bring me some snacks," Leonty muttered. "Yes, sir," the robot buzzed, and soon returned with a bag of chips. They smelled awful, like a mix of hay and cow patties. Leonty thought, his eyes distant and lifeless. Icked, more dead than the robots. The screen cut to Henry Dorn's, silver-haired, gaunt, almost skeletal, and with eyes that burned too brightly, even for a man. "We must introduce new restrictions for both humans and robots. This is the only path to lasting peace between. When you hear the same words year after year, live like the androids that serve you, and watch a system that never changes. You're only one of two things can happen. Either the person breaks and burns out from within, hollowed and numb, or something in the soul stirs. A slow flicker, until one day, something sparks. A word, a look. Leonty didn't know what it was, but something ignited inside the smoldering ashes of his mind. He hurled the beer can across the room with all his strength, then stood up, started pacing. "Back and forth, P6, he called. The robot drifted silently into the room, awaiting instructions. Bring me something stronger," Leonty mumbled. "Whiskey? No. Vodka, juice, anything. Just bring it," he shouted, clutching his head and sliding down the wall until he collapsed to the floor. He curled into himself, forehead on his knees, and sobbed. For the first time in his life, he had never cried before. The android returned with a bottle of gin. Leonty wiped the tears from his face, stood up, and looked around. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door. "Is everything all right in there?" Leonty held his breath, afraid even to move. The knock came again, harder this time. "Please, open the door. If you don't, I'll be forced to break it down. They'll take me, send me for treatment." To a correctional hospital, he leapt to his feet in panic, popped 5 no-worries pills, chased them down with gin, and reached the door, glancing at the mirror above the dresser. He fixed his hair, wiped the last signs of crying from his face, forced a smile, and tried to look normal before opening the door. An android investigator stood at the threshold. He looked Leonty over silently. "Have you been drinking?" "Yes," Leonty admitted. "What? Gin?" "You're aware that hard alcohol is only distributed with proper documentation once every 6 months?" "Yes," Leonty said, grinding his teeth and staring the android down. "For emotional outbursts and noise violations after 10 p.m.
Ow.
You may be fined 200,000 rubles. Your neighbors reported you. Were you crying?" "No. May I come in?" "Do you have a warrant?" Leonty asked, breathing heavily. "Yes," the android replied and handed him a small metal tablet displaying the data for the room search. Asking for a warrant had become pure formality. These days, approval was processed through the network in less than 30 seconds. But still, it gave Leonty a moment of delay. Leonty slowly stepped aside, the robot moving not on wheels like the delivery models, but on metallic prosthetic legs, entered the room. It walked between the couch and the glowing screen, pausing to examine a stain on the wall left by the beer can Leonty had hurled earlier. The android bent down slowly only. The metallic thud of its steps revealed it wasn't human. Visually, it was almost indistinguishable from a person. Before it could retrieve the can, Leonty glanced at his reflection in the mirror again, then at the robot. For a moment, he felt like the machine here was him, not the android investigator. "Why did you damage the wallpaper?" the robot asked sternly. "By accident," Leonty murmured. "With what intention?" "Constructing likely sequence of events, The android cut him off, its voice flat. A bluish light projected from its eyes. Leonty watched in horror as a hologram appeared, himself seated on the couch, then suddenly throwing the can at the wall with force. Analysis in progress. Possible emotional instability, the android declared. Leonty trembled. Then, to his surprise, the robot displayed another scene himself. Collapsed on the floor, hugging his knees, sobbing. His hands shook uncontrollably, as if fevered. Reached for the gin bottle left on the dresser and smashed it against the doorframe. The android remained still, continuing the playback. But before it could finish, Leonty, in a burst of desperation, lunged forward and smashed the jagged rose. A broken glass against its face. A red fluid almost like blood spilled out. The glass caught on wiring and metal. The android jolted from its trance, responded with a chillingly human voice. Attempted assault, activating self-defense protocol. It kicked Leonty hard in the stomach, hurling him across the floor. He crashed into the doorway leading to the other room, to human. Leonty thought as he struggled to rise. The robot clanked toward him, relentless. Meanwhile, the old household android P6 stood motionless. It did nothing. When Leonty had chosen to keep it, he'd hoped it was still different, still kinder than the newer ones. P6. He shouted, coughing blood. Activate Protect Owner Mode. Understood, came the reply, cold and metallic. P6 rolled into the living room, positioning itself between Leonty and the other machine, which had drawn a gun from its uniform. Mandroids wore clothes now, more dignified than most humans. Leonty stood hunched, eyes darting around. The shard of the broken bottle had skittered out of reach when he'd been thrown. A shot rang out. The bullet tore through P6's arm, revealing a pale white alloy that looked disturbingly like bone. The household android lunged at the enforcer. One of its glowing blue eyes sparked and dimmed. There was no escape for Leonty, he knew that. Where could he run, and why? The enforcer slammed a brutal blow into P6, shattering its artificial teeth and kicking it backward. But P6 rose again, grabbing the enforcer's arm, yanked with violent force, ripping the limb. It's clean off. It didn't last. The enforcer slammed it into the floor, again and again, until a red, blood-like fluid pooled beneath the shattered chassis. Then, coldly, it leaned down, dug its remaining hand into P6's abdomen, yanked out a mechanical heart, pulsing like a real one. It crushed it in its fist, threw it aside, and turned back to Leonty. Only now did Leonty notice the exposed bone jutting from his broken left elbow. The robot had fractured it. He stumbled back, managed to open the next door, and locked himself in. Just before it shut, he glimpsed the twisted, half-human face of the android, a blend of flesh-like material and gleaming steel. He backed away. His eyes scanned the shelves, the desk. Grabbing a chair, he smashed it to the ground, trying to break off one of its metal legs. A knock came at the door, then a glitchy, distorted voice. "Apologies. May I enter?" "Nay bars," reported Strange, Noisazy. Then came a heavy crash. Abador was torn from its hinges in a final burst of energy. Leonty slammed the chair to the ground again, tore off one of the legs and held it. Like a spear, stay back. The android limped forward, its clothing torn, drenched in blood-like fluid. One step, then another, then a third. Leonty retreated to the window, threw it open, climbed onto the ledge. Below him, a 200-meter drop to the bustling city streets. People, cars, and robots moving like ants. "Please don't," he whispered, trembling. "I'm begging you. Self-defense protocol. A human must not harm a robot. A human must not violate the law." The android lunged. For a heartbeat, Leonty froze in pure terror, eyes wide. Then he jumped, flinging the chair leg aside, but the robot's metal hand caught him midair, digging into his leg. Leonty screamed a sound swallowed instantly by the urban roar. The next thing he knew, he was on the floor of his room. The android straddled him, pinning him down with mechanical weight. Its fingers, wet with that strange red fluid, pressed against his eye, squeezed and threw a veil of blood. He heard a sickening crack, the bones behind the socket shattering. Then warmth trickled down his cheek. His vision dimmed. The left eye was gone. He couldn't scream, only see barely through his remaining eye, and then he heard heavy footsteps. Many of them, followed by a dull thud. "Another android malfunction," said a voice. "What do we do with it?" asked another. "Scrap it. Ship it back to RobCorp." "Understood." They even talked like humans now, Leonty thought bitterly, because among all the metal steps, he hadn't heard a single soft human footfall. He closed his good eye and sank into unconsciousness. The trash collector. Gott gathered the garbage, crossed the street, emptied another bin into the truck. It paused. Something had caught its attention. A man unloading an android from his pickup truck. The man tossed the body carelessly and headed toward the RobCorp store. The Trashbot Frozite's program momentarily confused. It stared at its hands. "We must provide for the needs of our society," said a voice from the massive screen above a corporate billboard on the side of a skyscraper. Henry Dorn. Again, the future lies in unity between androids and mankind. That is what we must strive for. The robot looked down again, and in that instant, something flickered inside its code like the ghost of a thought as it saw another police. Android savagely beating a homeless man in the street. Why are there's so many androids and so few people? The bot shivered, almost as if it had goosebumps, though of course, couldn't feel. Then, another line of corrupted logic. Why do the old models look exactly like the new ones? The thought vanished just as quickly. The garbage truck rumbled forward, and the bot resumed its task, emptying another overflowing bin.